Welcome to Main Street Ventures Restaurant Group's first installment of the Chef Experience. My name is Brent Courson. I'm the Executive Chef for Main Street Ventures, and today I'm going to be leading you on an instructional cook-along of a restaurant-quality 3-course dinner from the safety and privacy of your own home. Inside this box, you're going to find chef-selected ingredients, restaurant quality, the finest of everything to produce that meal. Let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do, just uncover the box, set that to the side. First thing on top is going to be this envelope, and inside this envelope we have detailed recipes, photos of the production of the items, the actual menu itself, and the timeline in which we're going to be making these items, these components. So that'll help you follow along as well. And as important as anything, the packing list. Every item for every course is color-coded, so we will let you know when those items need to be pulled out and utilized for that recipe. We're going to keep these very close by to keep ourselves on track, and we're going to get started. So as we set this box to the side, we'll move those off the top. The first things we're going to need, everything coated in blue for our appetizer. So what we have here, just to get started, something to snack on, a beautiful little chili and lime sauteed shrimp with some cucumber, watermelon, cilantro, and chili lime vinaigrette. To execute these, all we need are some plates to assemble on and a spoon for the sauce. We're going to uncover that chili lime vinaigrette that we've made. Just take a little spoonful and just spread that on our plate decoratively. Very, very simple. Set that to the side. We've got our decorative picks here. The shrimp are already cooked and just need to be assembled. This is an excellent sharing appetizer, perfect for alfresco dining outdoors, summertime. Watermelon are very nice and in season right now, delicious quality. These shrimp that we use in the restaurants, nice size, jumbo Gulf white shrimp, tremendous quality. Eat almost akin to lobster, they're so delicious. Beautiful. Set our packaging to the side. We have here some beautiful hand-picked cilantro. We're just going to use that to garnish each shrimp. So again, if you were entertaining outdoors in the summertime, you can make large platters of these, make these up ahead of time, just keep them in the fridge. Great entertaining item. And there we are. So next up, we're going to pair with this a beautiful cocktail. So to be able to assemble that, you're going to need a couple of plates for rimming, either a large glass or a cocktail shaker, a couple of cocktail glasses, and a knife. So go ahead and grab those things and we'll get started. So to pair with this appetizer, we've come up with a delicious cocktail, a Paloma that's made traditionally with tequila. What we need to execute this, some ice in a cocktail shaker or a large pint glass would be just fine. A knife, wine key for opening our Q grapefruit soda, nice shot of good silver tequila, a couple of limes, a couple of cocktail glasses, and a couple of plates for rimming. And we'll get started. So first thing we're going to do, juice our limes. Always want to give them a good roll. Make sure we get all that good quality juice out of there. Now first thing we're going to do, we're going to squeeze just a little bit of lime out onto our plate here to help us rim that glass. Rest of the lime goes into the cocktail shaker. Again, this summertime heat makes perfect for an appetizer and cocktail pairing like this. As we get further into this video, there's going to be moments where we're going to instruct you to hit pause so you can kind of get yourself caught up. But that's why we came up with this appetizer and this drink just to kind of get you started. All right, next up, we've got our Q grapefruit soda. our tequila. And now we take, labeled in yellow, our chili lime salt, and this is going to be for rimming our glasses. So we take our beautiful little cocktail glass, rub that around in our lime juice, and there we've got that beautiful decorative rim. We repeat that action. All we need to do is give this a little bit of a stir, and we're ready to go. Got to check out how we did. Oh yeah. So at this point, please go ahead and enjoy a bite of the appetizer, sip on the cocktail. In order to execute this 3-course dinner, we're actually going to start by making dessert first. So in order to do that, we're going to make our pâte choux pastry. It is a French pastry dough. So go ahead and sit back, relax, have a taste of appetizer, sip a cocktail, and go ahead and review the recipe for the pastry. What we're going to need to do to execute this is gather a small sauce pot, a wooden spoon or high-temp rubber spatula, some eggs, and the combination of milk, butter, salt, and water that is packed in our box here. All right, to make this classic pâte choux pastry dough, the items in the box for the dessert are labeled in red. What we're going to need is our container here of water, milk, butter, and salt, pre-measured for you already, as well as our flour. We need our sauce pot and a wooden spoon or a high-temperature spatula for stirring. We're going to take these over to the stove and get started. So here, again, we have pre-measured our milk, water, salt, and butter. We're just going to put that into our sauce pot over a medium-high flame, and all we're going to do is wait for that butter to melt. We're almost there. We want to make sure that butter is cut into smaller pieces. We don't want that milk to come up too hot and cook down at all, or necessarily even boil. We're just trying to melt that butter and get the bubbles around the edges to that point of a scalded milk. Just about there. All right, now at this point, it's safe to go ahead and add our flour. We'll carefully stir that in, and you'll see this dough will come together fairly quickly. We're going to reduce our heat a touch to just a medium or medium-low. And we're going to stir this for just 1 or 2 minutes. And that's going to cook a little bit of the starchiness out of the flour. Really let that dough develop, not be as gummy. Going to give us a more tender cream puff. So cream puffs, the same dough would be utilized for making eclairs, profiteroles, lots of different traditional French pastries. We have a creative filling that we have for this cream puff. A yuzu citrus filling, combined with a little bit of bitter dark chocolate. But of course, once you learn this technique, you can apply it to the same dough, make countless different desserts, and of course, you can put your favorite filling in it, whatever you choose. What we want to do is make sure we cook this to the point where we start to see this film building on the bottom of the sauce pot, as you see. And that's good to go for us. So now we've got our choux dough, but it's still just a touch warm. Our next step is going to be to break in and add 1 egg at a time. We're adding just 2 eggs to this dough as we go, but we want that dough temperature to drop. So right now it's about 140, 150 degrees. We want to just stir this around, let that dough cool just a touch, down to about 110 degrees, so it's not too hot, doesn't prematurely cook our egg. The eggs in this dough are going to be our only form of leavening. That's what's going to make them light and airy and make them hollow little perfect cream puffs. So at this point our dough has rested and come down in temperature just a touch. Before we start our addition of eggs, we want to make sure that we've got our oven preheated to 400 degrees. And if you did have convection settings, you want to make sure those are off. We just want a regular bake at 400 degrees. So we've got a nice, just above room temperature dough now. We're going to crack in 1 egg. And very, very important how we add the eggs to this dough. We got to make sure they are fully incorporated before going further. So we really got to work it in. And by the time we get this 1 egg worked in, it's still going to be a very firm and stiff dough. As we see there, dough is soaking up that egg nicely. That's what's going to give us that good leavening. Nice, tall, light, hollow cream puffs. We can now safely add our second egg. And repeat that process once again. We got that second egg all the way worked in. We got a nice little egg-rich dough, and we're ready to move on. All right, so the next step in preparing our cream puffs, we're going to need a few things in front of us. Here we've still got that last egg, and that's going to get whisked up with a fork just to simply brush over the top of our cream puffs. As well, marked in red, our raw cane sugar, turbinado sugar. We're going to sprinkle that over the top. We need our disposable pastry bag, a baking sheet pan, and then we have packed in the box for you a little half sheet of parchment. We trace circles, and that's going to be the size of our cream puff, 1.5 inches in width, and I think that just makes the perfect bite-sized little dessert. Again, we're going to make, I'm sorry to say, not just 2, but 12 of these. Feel free to eat them, or again, after you bake the pastry, you can reserve it for the next day, change up your filling. You can make them all and keep them in the refrigerator, have some the next day with your cup of coffee in the morning. So first thing we're going to do is get our pastry bag here filled up with that dough. Next, we're going to put just a little slit in the end. That's going to help press some of that air out as we work this dough down. Now we're going to cut off just around 1/2 inch wide on that pastry bag. Give this a twist and we're ready to go. So we're going to start off dead center of that circle, and we're going to make sure it's 1.5 inches wide, about 3/4 of an inch high, and then we're going to pull up. And repeat. Don't worry about those crazy looking tips. We're going to press those down when we brush the top with egg. If we were to bake them like that, those tips would burn to a crisp, absolutely. Once again, both the appetizer and the dessert, perfect for entertaining with. Absolutely great little items. Now last thing, we're going to crack that egg. Whisk that up. And if we had a pastry brush, that would be just fine. I tell you what, there's nothing wrong with just getting in there. We're going to press down that top, a little bit of egg all over the top of our little cream puffs. Those are all done. Just a little sprinkle of that raw cane sugar over the top. That's going to melt and then caramelize, give these a beautiful golden brown color. And as you've seen, we haven't added a touch of sugar to this dough yet. So we're really able to control what we're putting into here. It doesn't never going to eat too sweet. And again, it's egg rich, so it's a little bit better. These are ready to go to the oven. We're going to bake these for a total of 20 minutes at 400 degrees, rotating halfway through. The next thing that takes a long time for us to prepare for this beautiful three-course dinner, the side dish that we're pairing with that pan-seared salmon, beautiful side of green lentils. So we've got our little sauce pot, something to stir with. I like just a large size spoon here. We're going to need some general olive oil, cooking oil, some freshly ground black pepper to season with. And of the ingredients that come in your box, we've got right here our beautiful organic French green lentils. Here we've got some mirepoix vegetables. So we've got onions, celery, carrots, leeks, garlic, and butter. We have some house-made vegetable stock that we're going to simmer those lentils in. Kosher salt for seasoning, some red pepper flakes, as well as some herbes de Provence. A nice dried herb blend that's got rosemary, thyme, lavender, savory, marjoram, oregano. Really going to lend a lot of flavor to these lentils. And we're going to start off with this beautiful pancetta. We're going to take all this over to the stove and get started. All right, to start our lentils, we're going to start off with just a tablespoon of olive oil, a nice little sauce pot here, medium-high flame, and our diced pancetta. Now, pancetta is an Italian bacon. It is cured but not smoked, and typically flavored with some black pepper. If you didn't have pancetta, it would be just fine to use bacon as a substitute, prosciutto as a substitute. Smoked ham hocks could be a substitute, an American ham. But this pancetta is going to give us the best flavor. And this one is produced by Molinari & Sons domestically here out of San Francisco. The absolute highest quality pancetta we can get our hands on. Now, we're going to make sure, and this is a very important part to creating the flavor for this side dish, we're going to make sure we render a lot of this fat out of here and cook them to a nice, firm, golden brown and crispy, almost to just before you would think they were burnt. That's going to give us a deep, rich flavor. Make sure that fat that is in there isn't chewy at all, and just lend a ton of flavor to this side dish. Now, of course, there's lots of substitutes you can utilize, but you know, if you want to leave the pork out of this side dish, that would be just fine as well. But it's going to give a lot of depth of flavor to go along with our pan-seared salmon. As we see, we're starting to get there. Gonna take just a couple minutes. And again, to do this right and get that spectacular quality product, we really got to show a little bit of patience, a little bit of expertise, the right amount of heat, get that right amount of color on the pancetta, develop a lot of flavor. All that fat that's rendered out, going to give a lot of flavor to everything else we put into this dish. And right there, that's exactly what we're going for. Basically little pork croutons. Going to be delicious. We're going to set those aside. And those are going to go back into our lentil ragu when we're done. For right now, we're going to remove this sauce pot from the heat and add a tablespoon of butter as well as our onion, celery, carrots, leeks, and garlic. Whenever we start sauteing those vegetables, we want to add just a pinch of salt, a few turns of black pepper, make sure we season every step of the way. And we don't want to brown these vegetables. Our heat's not too high. We're in real good shape here. We just don't want to brown them. We want to sweat them. We want that soft vegetable backbone of flavor. If we were to cook these real aggressively, they'd be much more prominent. We want the earthiness of the lentils to show through. We want to make sure we taste that pancetta. We want these to be just supporting actors, if you will. Once we get a little bit of a saute on these, we can add now our red pepper flakes and herbes de Provence. Make sure those flavors start kind of soaking in and cooking in. Great thing about these lentils, we may have some left over when we're done. They're very, very versatile. First and foremost, they provide fiber and protein, kind of help balance out that plate. We don't have to have a huge chunk of fish to fill us. You know, the lentils are very, very filling on their own. And whatever's left over, we could toss those into a salad tomorrow. We could do a lot of different things. We could add those to a cup of soup that we have. Very, very versatile once we have those cooked off. Now we've got just a light sweat and soften on our vegetables. We're in good shape here. We're now going to add our organic French green puy lentils. Give those just a saute and a toss. And we can now add our house-made vegetable stock. If you had chicken stock laying around, beef broth, all those would be just fine to substitute in. We're going to keep the heat on this. Once again, the flavor of this stock is going to be what soaks into those lentils and really seasons them. So we give that stock now a nice little season. We're going to bring this up to the boil, so we raise our heat. And then we want to bring it down to a low simmer. Those are our cream puffs. We're going to check on them. They are looking perfect so far. Light golden. Starting to grow in size. We're going to rotate that left to right, set the timer for another 10 minutes. Okay, so we've just come up to a boil on our lentils. We're going to reduce our heat down to a nice low simmer. Simmer is going to be where you see the bubbles coming up, product moving around just a little bit. One of the reasons we're cooking this nice higher sided sauce pot so they cook nice and even. If we had something with more surface area like a saute pan, we'd cook away all that stock too fast. Our lentils wouldn't quite be cooked. They'd still be a little rock hard and tough. We want to make sure we give this just a nice slow gentle simmer, about 10 to 15 minutes. That stock will cook down, it'll soak up that flavorful vegetable stock and everything else that we had in there, the flavor from the vegetables, the pancetta, the herbes de Provence. We're going to let that soak in and cook real slowly. We're going to head to the kitchen to start our vinaigrette. All right, so next up we're going to make a proper vinaigrette. To do this, we're going to need our salt and pepper on standby. Nice mixing bowl. I've got a kitchen towel underneath this to keep it from spinning all over the place. A whisk, just a little spoon. And then out of our box, the items that are packed in orange for our entree, we've got our fresh lemon juice that we're going to squeeze ourselves, some extra virgin olive oil, some creme fraiche, and parsley. Let's get started. All right, to make this proper vinaigrette, we're going to use, this one is going to be comprised of lemon and creme fraiche. So we're going to put our creme fraiche in. If you didn't have creme fraiche available to you, sour cream would be an acceptable substitute. But again, once you learn how to make this proper vinaigrette, you can change up the flavors to whatever your fancy. But to make a small portion for just a salad for one night doesn't take much effort, doesn't take a whole lot of food, just the know-how. So here we've got the juice of half a lemon. We've got our creme fraiche in there. We're just going to stir that together until it's nice and smooth. Here we have our high-quality estate bottled extra virgin olive oil. And to make this vinaigrette, the creme fraiche acts as an emulsifier for us. So we're just going to drizzle in just a tiny bit and whisk that in. Now we're going to keep that going. We don't want to add too much at any one point in time. Creme fraiche is going to help us keep this one nice smooth dressing. And there's something very nice about a smooth dressing. When you toss it into a salad, which this is going to go over some local baby greens with some haricot vert, some fingerling potatoes that have been blanched in some nice salted water, it's going to carry every bit of that flavor. We could just stir together some lemon juice and extra virgin olive oil, and that'd be fine and light and tasty. But this creme fraiche is going to add a lot of richness and help us keep a nice smooth dressing. So as you see, we're going slowly, just making sure that we can work in every bit of oil we pour in here. If we poured this whole cup in here, we'd have just a big old mess. There we go. All we need now, we're going to season this with just a pinch of parsley, pinch of salt, a few turns of that fresh cracked pepper. Give that a stir in. All right, so we've made our vinaigrette. Most important thing always, want to give it a taste. Delightful. So now we're going to add to this the salad that's going to accompany our salmon and lentil ragu. We've got some beautiful local baby greens. We're just going to toss that in. Some haricot vert, some baby French beans. They've been cut down to size, already blanched, boiling salted water. Fingerling potatoes, same. They were cooked in some boiling salted water and sliced. Beautiful little potatoes. We're just going to give this little salad a toss. We're going to reserve this in the refrigerator while we prepare the rest of the entree. Next up, what we're going to need our Bear Rouge reduction. We're going to be making a red wine butter sauce to accompany our salmon. Just a little sauce pot to kind of get that on and reducing down and started. 20 minutes have now passed. That second 10-minute cooking time. As you see, the coloring from that raw cane sugar, nice and golden brown, nice puffy little cream puffs. We're going to let these cool. These are going to be ready for us once we finish preparing dinner and can assemble dessert. All right, so this is one of those points when we're creating this great quality entree that it can get a little hectic in the kitchen. So we've got our lentils here and simmering, nice low action, soaking in that flavorful juice. They're doing great. Still got a few minutes to go. We've got our crispy pancetta as well as the parsley that we want to finish this off with. Once that's finished cooking, we're going to turn the heat off and add those in. Now this is going to be the base for our Bear Rouge or red wine butter sauce. So combined in here, as you saw in the recipe, we have red wine, port wine, red wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar, some minced shallot, some herbes de Provence, and some black pepper, as well as a splash of heavy cream. All that's already combined in there. We got this just over a little low flame just to get that warm. This is going to be the last thing we make to finish off that dish. So now we're going to head back into the kitchen and take a look at our salmon. All right. So to cook this piece of salmon, which is the next step, we're going to need a saute pan to cook them in, a little bit of olive oil for cooking. We got our freshly ground black pepper, our kosher salt. We're going to do a lemon brown butter based on the fish. So we've got 2 tablespoons of butter here already set aside that came in that package with that orange stamp on it, and then some wedges of lemon. Let's take a look at our fish. So tonight we're going to be doing a nice pan sear on this beautiful Atlantic salmon. As we see here, we've pave cut it. That means cutting it straight across and thick. We see the marbling. The white is the fat content of that fish. Absolutely beautiful. Now we've cut it like this specifically for how we're going to cook it. What we're going to do is get a pan really, really hot, get a beautiful golden brown crust on the fish, and then we'll add in the butter and baste the fish, and that's going to give us a beautiful medium rare to medium temperature throughout. So we'll get the best of all worlds, that crunchy, developed flavor of the fish, and have that silky, soft, melt-in-your-mouth interior. Let's go get started. All right, so now we've got everything in front of us to cook and assemble this entree after this. We've got our lentils still cooking beautifully, our ingredients to finish. We've got our beurre rouge just over some low heat, starting to reduce, the 3 tablespoons of butter nearby. After we cook the fish, we'll immediately start to finish the sauce so we can assemble this beautiful entree. Here in the saute pan, we got 2 tablespoons of olive oil. We're going to turn on the heat. We're going to get that going on high. Now, when it comes to cooking a beautiful protein like this, the 2 things that we have to focus on getting exactly right are going to be the seasoning and the cook temperature. So, with a thick cut piece of fish like this, we want to be more aggressive with the amount of salt we put on that. That nice salt crust is going to be all that developed flavor. Our black pepper. We'll flip them over, make sure we season the other side. So the thickness of the fish is really going to determine how long we cook it. So these are about 1.25 to 1.5 inches thick. So we're going to cook for about 90 seconds on that face side first, flip them over. We'll do a little less than 60 seconds on the second side before we start that butter baste. Now what we're looking for in our oil here is a nice smoke that's coming off of it. Okay. Now oils are going to have different smoke points. Something like a grapeseed oil, going to be the most ideal oil that you can use. Very, very high smoke temp because we need it to be really hot to get that beautiful golden brown crust on the fish. We started to achieve that smoke point. Now, at this high heat searing, when you're doing this at home, you want to be very, very careful. Make sure you have your hood vents on, a fan going to help circulate the air. And when we put the fish in, we're going to make sure we lay it away from ourselves so we don't splash ourselves with all this smoking hot oil. Here we go. Now we don't need to do a whole lot to the fish. The most important thing right now is to leave it alone, let the heat develop that crust to the point where it releases from the pan. If we go moving this around or poking at it, bad things can happen. Just let the food cook. We'll see how much it's cooking. You can see that pink color start to come up the sides. Make sure we have our towel handy as that pan starts to get hot. And we'll see if they're ready for release. If it feels like it's sticking to the pan, just leave it alone. It'll be just fine. It has not released yet. Absolutely beautiful color there. Same thing there. So we're going to let those cook for about 60 seconds on that second side now. Again, we've got multiple things cooking on the stove. Our lentils, as you see, the stock is reduced down beautifully. At this point, what we're going to do is turn off that heat and just let them sit and soak up that last bit of juice. And we'll add in our pancetta and parsley just at the very end. Our Bear Rouge has not reduced too far. It is just warm and a light simmer. Our 60 seconds have passed on our fish here. What we're going to do is turn off the heat. We're going to add in our 2 tablespoons of butter carefully. We're going to squeeze our wedge of lemon in. We're going to take our spoon, tilt the pan just a touch, and start spooning that nice brown butter vinaigrette over the fish. Now we see that nice golden brown foam on top. That's beautiful. The milk solids in that butter have reduced down and toasted, giving a nice nutty flavor. And this warm butter, just gently flavored with lemon, is going to start to penetrate the middle of that fish and season it beautifully and give us a nice, perfect, even cook temperature all the way through. Want to do this for just 1 or 2 minutes, and then we can set it aside and finish our other components and bring together this beautiful entree. That should do it. Beautiful. Now for our Bear Rouge sauce. Traditional French sauce, Bear Rouge, brother to the Beurre Blanc. Bear is just French for butter. Rouge would be red, being red wine. A Beurre Blanc would be a white wine butter sauce. And this is one of those core competencies, one of those things that just makes that restaurant quality dish so gosh darn tasty. So as I mentioned, we've got that wine and that vinegar and those shallots and those herbs in there, and we're essentially reducing this down. We're going to increase our heat here. And we want to start to bring this to a nice simmer, reduce that down. Whenever we're reducing things, we're going to be evaporating the water content and concentrating all of that flavor. So that little bit of vinegar that's in there is going to give a nice acid backbone. Those 2 wines that we have going to give a lot of richness. That little bit of heavy cream, and just as we saw with that vinaigrette, is going to help us keep this sauce emulsified. And emulsified just means smooth looking. It's that nicer quality finished product. If this sauce were to break on you and be separated, it would still be tasty. Some people might think it's actually prettier, but we're going for this beautiful light violet hue. Going to be absolutely stunning on our plate. Now the key on this Beurre Blanc, since we have that touch of emulsifier in there, that cream, we're going to have the help, but we've got some nice cold butter cut into tablespoons, and then we're not going to cook this over the flame. We just want to reduce this down first. And we're about reduced by half there. That's about what we want. Now what we're going to do in our little sauce pot is just add a tablespoon of nice cold butter and give it this nice swirl. Let that butter melt in. Once you see that first tablespoon of butter is melted, we'll be able to add the next one. You could use a little whisk for that, and that's fine. Honestly, if you got these nice little size sauce pots, just giving it that swirl, I find, works very, very well. You can use a spoon to stir. But the heat is off. And if we stop stirring, this sauce will separate. We walk away, the sauce will separate. Onto our last tablespoon. So this butter is going to melt somewhere in between 90 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. This isn't going to be a really, really hot sauce. It's not a boiling reduced sauce at all. This is going to be kind of like a warm vinegar and butter sauce. And you know, it's going to have that richness of the butter, that acid backbone, the flavor of the wines, the texture from the shallots. We do have that black pepper kind of reinforcing that red wine flavor and backbone. Absolutely delicious. Compare beautifully with our salmon and lentils. And there we have our bear rouge sauce. So last thing, we're just going to add in our crispy pancetta, if you haven't eaten all those little delicious bits yet, and our parsley, and fold that in. So now we have a beautiful lentil ragu, delicious bear rouge sauce, beautifully cooked salmon, and we're ready to take it to the plate. All right, so at this point in time, we've gotten our beautiful dinner china. We've retrieved our salad from the refrigerator. We have all of our components here. Most important thing before we start plating is give everything a nice little taste. So here we've got our finished off lentil ragu with pancetta. Going to give that just a pinch of salt, a few turns of black pepper, but I taste the herbes de Provence, a little bit of background heat from those red pepper flakes, earthy flavor from the lentils, absolutely delicious. We're going to taste our bear rouge sauce. Absolutely spot on. Nice acid backbone. You taste the red wine, the herbs, the black pepper. Absolutely delicious. Our fish cooked beautifully here. Let's take it to the plate. So on one side of these nice dinner plates, we're going to make just a bed of lentils to sit that salmon on. One nice little line, making sure we get some nice pieces of that pancetta in there. Next, we'll top that with our beautifully cooked fish. Nice golden brown crust, that butter based, fantastic. We're going to take our greens. Nice local greens with those haricot vert, fingerling potatoes, that house-made lemon creme fraiche vinaigrette. Make sure we get some of those nice veggies over the top of the salad. And then of course we finish with our beautiful violet hued bear rouge sauce. We'll just give a drizzle around the plate just like that. And the sauce is always what separates that restaurant quality food from what we're capable of doing at home on average. So there we are. Beautiful take on salmon and lentils. Perfect alfresco dining with the salad on the plate, sit out in the beautiful weather. We've paired this entree with a beautiful rosé. Summertime, absolutely perfect. This Terra d'Oro rosé, predominantly Nebbiolo grapes, and it's just going to have a little bit more body and substance, but still those characteristics of a crisp white wine, that stainless steel fermentation. Pairs beautifully. Delightful. All right, we're going to check out how we did on the cook on our salmon. So into this thick part here, we're just going to break that apart. Absolutely beautiful salmon color. Nice and soft, not completely firm yet. That's a perfect sign of that, just that medium plus temperature, silky, golden brown crust, ton of flavor. That is going to be beautiful. Let's see how we did. Perfect. So now it's time for dessert. The best part of the meal, of course, right? We saved the best for last. We've got our beautifully prepared cream puffs. Those are still empty. We're going to see how we did on the preparation of those. So we're going to take a serrated knife, just cut this through the center, and as we see, perfectly hollow. So again, a lot of air, not this big, overly sweet dessert. Again, light, nice light eating. What we're going to do now, take just 1 tablespoon of that yuzu pastry cream And yuzu is a Japanese citrus fruit, very, very interesting flavor, kind of like a Meyer lemon, key lime mashup. We're going to take that and just put 1 tablespoon of that pastry cream, 2 tablespoons of that whipped cream, a little bit of shaved dark chocolate, put a cap on it, just like that. Let's make some more. We're going to take a little bit of our yuzu pastry cream, just 1 tablespoon into the bottom. Again, has high acidity, very nice and tart. So think of this as a Asian key lime pie, lemon meringue cream puff, something along those lines, right? We've got 2 tablespoons then of our vanilla bean whipped cream. And just finish off with a dusting of powdered sugar, and you've got a beautiful yuzu cream puff. So as you can see, we brought some new techniques that hopefully you learned something, the making of the vinaigrette, the making of the butter sauce, the making of the cream puff, the pâté choux dough. And these things, very simple. Once you learn the concepts, you could do this for a beautiful little dinner for 2 at the house with your significant other. You could scale up these recipes and entertain out on your porch. As we see, summertime, it's the time to be outside on the deck eating nice, light, flavorful food. So I hope you enjoy.